Thank you for tuning in to the Day One podcast. I'm Adam Daly.
And I'm Brett Nord.
We're back again for another week talking about some great stuff with the app Day One. And we also have a special guest on with us today.
We actually have two special guests.
That's right.
Like twice the goodness.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Not just Chris Messina, who I'll introduce in a second, but Paul Mayne, our CEO, president, and
joining
founder,
us.
and designer, and
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yes. Thank you.
Always good. He keeps us on our toes when he's on the air.
That's for sure.
Make sure we fact check it all correctly. Well, I'm excited to have Chris Messina. I've been talking to Chris for, weeks, months to get this together.
Easily, maybe years.
I think so too. Yeah, it feels like it for a long time. So thank you, Chris, for joining us. You've got such the resume. I don't even know where to start to introduce you, all the things you've done. But let's start with your employment. You've worked for Google. You've worked for Uber. You are a world traveler. You're like, are you checking off places you've traveled? Because you've just about hit every continent, haven't you?
I mean, a lot of the places that I end up going now are based on where I get invited to speak. So it's very serendipitous. I really didn't have much of a plan as of February this year. I just knew I needed to get out of the Bay Area for a little while. I literally wrote something on Medium about leaving.
Yes.
And then all these invitations started to roll in. So it's been actually really amazing so far.
So cool. Well, can't wait to hear about your travels. Also known as the Octothorpe inventor. How about that?
Yes, the Untitled came way back. That was in the 60s. I wasn't even around yet.
Oh, sure. The hashtag.
Modern social media, yes, exactly. The hashtag, that's right.
And how cool is it that you can actually Google, like, who invented the hashtag, and Chris Messina pulls out
That's
this
cool.
mug.
This is a very special guest we have today. That's exciting. I hashtag a lot of things.
I actually Googled, what did Brett Nord invent, and no hits.
Yeah, no, nothing.
So kind of...
I like to brag to my kids. Like, my claim to fame is that I know the guy that invented the hashtag.
Yeah.
It's like 2 degrees.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thanks, Chris. And again, looking forward to hearing more about you and how you use Day One.
Yes, but first let's talk about some exciting news. As of last Thursday, we have released version 4.1 on iOS and 4.1 on Mac. Love that version number parody, by the way. But some great things on iOS. We are introducing On This Day now. There's a preview shown in the journal side drawer. You know, when you swipe that out to switch journals, you can now see previews of On This Day. Even little picture squares there, which are really cool. Tap on those to jump into those entries. And you can also add MP3 and WAV files as audio to your Day One journal.
Chris, excited about that?
Yes.
That's
yes,
exciting.
I'm very excited about that.
I'm guessing same time limits, right?
Yeah.
So same time limits as we currently have them now, but you can use MP3s or WAV files in your Day One entries. Some tweaks going on with the streaks, performance improvements with typing in the editor. Some great stuff. Oh, video muting. I know that was some feedback we got on Facebook and through the app about the mute button. Some, it wasn't always apparent. There's some improvements there as well. So,
right. If you have autoplay is enabled by default, and it will play back your videos with them muted, and then you can toggle that off and hear the audio. But if you have autoplay, if you toggle that to off, then when you first play a video, it'll automatically play with the sound.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's a little more intuitive.
Some tweaks there, so great stuff. On Mac, we added an open button to the menu bar and share extension, which now opens a small pop-up entry window. Great way to do a quick entry without opening up the full app. And then some performance improvements on there as well. So what's next? I know a lot of people are asking. We've got video out. That was a big feature people were waiting for. Yes. Obviously, we've got some back-end fixes that we're still concentrating on as well. Android development and things for Day One that I'm excited about are templates. We've talked about those in the past. They're still being worked on as well. And the great thing about these, and Paul can correct me if I'm wrong here, because that's I'm like looking at him like, please tell me I'm telling the right thing. But what's going to be great about templates is that they will sync between your devices. They're customizable, so you can add in your own questions, your own headers. It'll use Markdown, so all of that will work in your entries to make them look really nice. And then there's also content from other people that we've added in there as well that you can call upon to use in Day One and really jumpstart your journal habits. So
Yeah,
cool stuff.
It's a gallery of suggested templates that we've either gathered or have heard from users that they've applied to their journal, and that'll continue to evolve and be updated live in the app. It won't require that we do app updates to see all the suggested templates.
Oh, cool. See, that's so cool. And not only that, but you can invoke them without reminders as well. So you can call upon, bring up your templates at any time to start an entry, or if you've already created one, you can add the template in afterwards through the media formatting menus. So that you can use them without reminders. I think that'll be a big deal too. So,
will there be any dynamic content in those templates, or any ability to insert things from third-party sources?
Excellent question.
Yeah, not in this first iteration. So we really broke it down to the essentials and getting it right in the editor, so it was just an expected and natural way of applying a template to your journal without being too strict in the way that it can be used. So like you can insert a template, but you can modify the headers or the questions or the formatting live in that specific instance of the template. But we are interested in this. So this was like the foundation that we wanted to get defined and working really well, and then it's built in a way that we can expand upon it in the future and explore things like more dynamic content in there.
Cool.
Awesome.
Very cool. Yeah, anything else? Oh.
Chris, are you using video and audio with Day One?
I mean, I have started to, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've been asking for that for a long time.
Yes.
Obviously, one part of the Instagram integration is interesting, but of course, if you don't support video, then you actually don't have the full archive of all the things. So that's important. And then, actually, one of the things, maybe this is more of a request now that I think about it. I tend to use Day One to capture a lot of conversations, particularly conversations like with my partner or things like that. And we have a very multimodal, multimedia, I would say, relationship, given that I've been on the road and I've been traveling. So we use a lot of like voice memos and recordings like that. So iMessage uses a format called CAF.
Yes. So another guy in our office here uses the voice memos in messages heavily, and he was just like, these are precious to me. I don't want them just to be lost in my messages, and there's specific ones that I want to retain. So we finally, because of his suggestion, moved forward on that. And for a long time, it was I didn't even think you could export them out. I had to actually Google it and do some research to find you can actually export the CAF file, but you had to like go into it's a few taps buried, but you go into the content or the contact of the messages, and you can see all the media that's been shared in that conversation, and then the audio files are in there. From there, you can use the native system share extension, and Day One now does support CAF files, and you can pull those.
Nice.
And I don't know if it applies the date. I think it does. I think it'll apply the date of that audio to the entry. If it doesn't, we'll add that. But
Very cool.
So there's another secret to that is if you, at least on desktop, if you play it all the way through, then essentially it downloads and loads the file or whatever, and then you can drag the waveform as another just ordinary attachment.
Nice.
Now, if you haven't played the voice memo yet, and you drag it, it'll drag a TIFF of the waveform.
Oh, jeez.
Really stupid. This is like a hack on a hack on a hack. It's like, obviously message has been around a long time, but that is one thing you can do. I don't know if that works on iOS, but it does work on Mac.
We're getting all sorts of tips today.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's a good one.
I love it.
have you seen how to share them on iOS?
I think you probably just long press.
No, you can't do it from the actual conversation. You tap on.
So I do
on
know when
iOS
you
13,
go to the contact in messages, you get to see all the attachments that they've ever sent you.
That's right. Yeah, from
So
there.
that's what you're saying is where that is. Okay.
Yep. In iOS 13, there's an info button underneath the header.
I'm still rocking 12.
Uh-oh.
That's a good idea when you're traveling.
Okay,
Yeah.
he doesn't want to
Okay.
take the risk.
When you're
I
traveling.
was like, one of those is like about to start playing. I'm like, nope, you don't want to hear that.
So
gonna get
do
the
you
E.
do you have any experience with iOS 13? How do you know what's going on there?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I have no idea. No, I just you said that you were on it, and I'm still
Yeah.
rocking 12. So
Yeah,
yeah.
You seem like the guy that's really early adopter for tech. So
I'm one of those people that's also bricked enough phones by being early. It's like, once burned, and then like, twice, don't, yeah. Anyways, that whole thing. So I've been burned enough times where I'm like, unless I have a separate phone, and as a nomad now, I have completely gotten rid of everything that I don't need. Rocking like a couple phones just doesn't make sense, just so I can try like the latest. So no, I'm sort of on the mainstream track nowadays.
You're not a product hunter?
But otherwise, I mean, obviously all my software is beta, so I still deal with that.
Yep.
Awesome.
Good.
There's two things I failed to mention in Chris's resume. One is giving a TED Talk, which is incredible.
Oh, very nice.
So
yes.
cool.
Well,
Two,
technically a TEDx talk. But
it's
yes.
what?
TEDx talk.
TEDx talk.
I'm going to count it still.
Yeah.
The TEDx Talk
Okay.
is
And
amazing.
I've done two.
That's it. That's awesome. That's amazing. Number two would be you're on the Day One Advisory Board.
Oh, yeah.
Which
Very
we
cool.
really appreciate the feedback.
Yes.
That should be on your resume, Chris, if it's not already.
You're right.
Above the TEDx. times two.
You
Anyway,
should go in and see all my awesome suggestions. Like if you guys built them all, like everyone would be so thrilled, so happy. One of the ones I'm gonna pimp it right here, because like I'm gonna hold you guys to this someday. Just like their hashtags, I want the ability to tag a contact. I want to mention a person
yes.
and like
Tagging contacts.
Yes,
We
exactly.
want that too. That
I know you do.
that's coming. But keep pushing. We'll make it happen soon.
So that's my advice. I'm advising you right now.
I
Awesome.
love it. On the fly. Chris, tell us about your first entry. How did you come to Day One?
Yeah, I was just looking. This is there's probably two that I would mention.
Yes.
One is of course the Day One Markdown Syntax Basics, which is from January 1970, which precedes Day One. So clearly that's
Just
a little bit
a bit.
different.
Precedes Paul Mayne.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty good. I was like, oh, that's how I do all the markdown here. Okay, great. And I think it still looks pretty good now that I look at it. It's got all the stuff in it. It's got tables even. I didn't know I could do tables, but that's in there. The other one actually, it's a journal, right? So you're gonna see personal things. So it's actually all the things that I loved about my now ex-wife. But that was from all the way back in May of 2008. So I've been using Day One. I think when did it come out originally?
It
Could
was
have been
March
2008?
2011.
Okay, so somehow I backdated that post.
Yeah.
If I go to 2011, I have some from 2010. Okay, so January 2012 is when I started, I think, doing more, like more regular stuff, and that was probably when I was starting to work at Google. Yep. Interesting. I'm noticing one of my
He's
entries,
reliving.
So I am. I'm going back to my Google days. So Daniel Shiplikoff is a guy that I met when I was at Google. He designed Google Search, and this entry from 2012 in January was when I was trying to recruit him to work on Google Plus and the UX team for Google Plus. So it's just interesting to sort of go back and see some of these people who have become very important in their own right.
Yes.
Who were just sort of part of my everyday experience back then.
Sure.
That is cool.
And products that aren't as important like Google Plus.
Hey, well, no, but that's a good thing. Some people don't realize that they can backdate. I imagine many of the users listening to this podcast are probably familiar, but you can backdate or future date any entry. Just go into the date.
Future date, huh?
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
interesting.
Well, some people
Yeah, I mean,
will
that
use
makes
that.
sense.
Some people will use it to like pin their entries.
Sure.
Put something in the future, and then it's always on top. So.
I feel like you should just add a pinning feature. But,
Sure. I'm just saying as a workaround. But yeah, you can backdate or future date any entry, just so everyone is aware.
You know what I like about that idea is if you were to say, at Google we use the system of OKRs, objectives and key results, to sort of track your own goals. I can imagine doing like a templated post for some OKRs for like the next quarter. That's dated to the end of the quarter, and it's always at the top of my list. So my goals are always like right there, right?
Yeah.
And then you have a whole list of things that you've tagged as OKRs, and you can sort of see how much progress you've made in a year.
And a deadline too, right? I mean,
Yeah,
if it's
exactly.
future dated, I'm doing it by that date. That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
Well,
countdown
okay.
and notification.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Speaking
Currently,
of-
we don't really support future dated entries like
Right.
really well. But it is a hack to like make it
It's
appear
possible.
at the top.
Stick on the top. Yeah.
It was just one
Back
of
to
those
the Future.
fundamental changes, like differences between like a chronological list in a journal versus like a notes type app.
Right. Yeah.
There's a great thread right now in our Facebook community about backdating to the first day, your day one,
Right.
using your birth picture. It's Alistair Kirkshank started that thread, and it's just growing. There's some great comments about that. What year was your first day one?
Yeah.
Which is fun to do because then you see the weather at the time you were born.
That is cool.
Very clever.
Yes. I'm sure it was sunny the day we were all born. No clouds.
Yeah, I don't know. I was born during MASH, so it was late at night. That's the story I get told from my birth story. Right during MASH.
That's funny. Good stuff, Chris. So that's your first entry. And imagine when you're traveling right now, you're doing some current entries about travel. Tell us about those entries.
Sorry, I'm adding like my born on to see what the weather was.
I just looked at mine. It was 81 and clear.
Aw, clear.
Wow. How do I change? Oh, place. Okay, place. Let's see. I'm gonna change my
This
place.
is live editing right now.
Sorry.
Everybody, no, if you're driving, please don't get out your phone.
Please don't do this at
Use the
home.
audio recording feature to remind yourself to
Perfect.
pull over later, or do it when you get to work or at home or whatever.
Yeah. Well, so I'll figure this part out later. I guess for me, a lot of what I've been, capturing, I think, is a lot of the cultural experiences that I've been having in the different countries and places that I've been. Most recently, I was in Israel and Tel Aviv specifically, but I traveled all around the country and really got an insider look on the conflict and the complexity of all the geopolitics that's going on there. That was a pretty amazing experience. And then before that, I was in Montreal for Startup Fest. And then before that, I was in Berlin for Tech Open Air. And again, like the cultures in all these different places, from the tech community, the tech scene, to going out to like the clubs and the food has been amazing. And then before that, I was in Western Australia, in Perth. So each of these places that I stop in gives me some new insight. And a lot of what I've actually been trying to figure out and get a gauge on is how is social media affecting people around the world? Because I've lived in Silicon Valley for the last 14 years, and there's a lot of tech press that's writing a lot of negative stories about social media. And I believe that a lot of that negativity is, real and based on experience, but I kind of also wanted to get out of like the filter bubble to see how are other people experiencing this stuff. And for people who, might just be getting on Instagram and Twitter now, who don't know the history. I mean, again, like the weird thing about going out and sort of telling people that you invented the hashtag is like, they're like, wait, what? Like, there's an inventor of the hashtag that makes no sense. It's always
I
like
invented
air.
oxygen.
Like what was before air?
That's right.
So, and actually more recently what's been happening is like, when usually someone that I'm with will out me as like the inventor, they'll be like, oh, which one did you invent? And I'm like,
All of them.
all of them. This is the progenitor that begot all the others. So that's, it's been a funny moment. But anyway, so I think part of it is trying to, just get some insight and take some notes and,
That's so
observe
cool.
kind of like what's going on in the world. Yeah.
It's amazing. Tell us what happened in Lisbon.
Oh, in Lisbon. Sure. Well, so Lisbon was a very interesting experience. So last fall, I decided to do sort of like a trial balloon experience where I was going to leave San Francisco for a month and spend 3 weeks in Lisbon to attend Web Summit. And then I was going to Russia to do my first TEDx. And then I went to Milan. And so I had this whole month planned. And anyways, within the first couple of days of being in Lisbon, I was staying in an Airbnb, and these 3 dudes in black masks like broke into my apartment while I was sleeping. They came in at 5 a.m. and they kind of like cleared out the place. And one of them started to come to the bedroom, and of course woke me up. And like I was freaked out. And at first I was like, what is this Airbnb cleaning service doing at like 5 in the morning? It's like, what's going on? I'm
All
like,
wearing black.
who's out there? And then of course I see this dude, and like he sees me and he freaks out, and he quickly exits out the window and like leaves. Anyways, he ended up taking my laptop, my phone, my wallet, my leather bag, like all my stuff. And it was it was the nearest. Well, it was actually like a digital death. I mean, because I used two-factor and extra security, right? And so my accounts are secure, except I need my phone. Well,
Right.
my phone was stolen. So how do you start to recover your accounts when your computers have been taken?
Yeah.
And I was like, for sure, everything's gone. Everything is encrypted server side. So, maybe I should, but it's like reading the terms of service. Like I don't typically print out the backup codes for two-factor. So I'm just like, I don't think I'm ever going to get my accounts back. Like my bank accounts are gone. My Google account is gone. My Google account unlocks everything else. So I'm just completely hosed.
Oh.
And for days that was true. And I was sort of mourning my own death. And fortunately, I had taken an iPad that I had out, and it was in my bedroom, and it wasn't stolen. And very fortunately, I had a copy of 1Password on that iPad, which of course I didn't really sync that often. Like everywhere I go, I have to connect to a new Wi-Fi network, so it wasn't like totally up to date. But it had enough information that allowed me to slowly get access back to some of my things. And then I ended up being able to get access to my Google account because of this weird random circuitous path or whatever. One thing that I discovered, which this is a probably top secret hint, is that to recover your Gmail account, one thing that you need to know is the date on which you signed up for Gmail.
Uh-oh.
If all other password recovery mechanisms fail and all the information requests or questions about like, your mom's maiden name, first car, and, your, algebra teacher's pet dog name or whatever fail, there is like one fallback, and that's when you signed up for Gmail. So if you don't know that, you should try to figure that out just in case, or let your loved ones know. So when you die or something, you can pass on your Google account. Again, because I've now digitally died and I've come back from the dead. Like, is it Lazarus or was Jesus? I don't know.
The Messina.
Well,
Regardless.
hey, no, but shout out to 1Password though, right?
Yeah.
For
Yes.
sure. I love that app.
Thankfully,
Put your
but I
backup
will
codes
say,
in there.
So I have backup codes in there. Now I will say that fortunately, my first pre-death, I suppose, was when my Instagram account was hacked a couple months before. And so once that had happened, and that had happened because the people had taken my SIM from my phone and were able to like take over my phone number and then do an account reset by getting like the SMS, password reset link or whatever. So I realized that doing phone backup for two-factor is actually insecure, which maybe I knew before, but I just hadn't experienced it. And so I did start moving over all my OTPs into 1Password. And so fortunately, I at least started that migration when all my shit was stolen out of Lisbon.
Yeah.
So anyways, the good news is insurance bought me a new laptop. And so I ended up sort of, no worse for the wear, except now I have this whole experience with digital identity that I would not wish on my worst enemies.
There's a lot of implications there, I think, that maybe we don't always think about, and we hear from people who have had stolen equipment or or it's been damaged or whatever. How do you keep that kind of thing safe? And obviously there's things we can do to do our best on those kind of things. If we're talking about day one, if you don't mind me circling back just a little bit, please go to our help guides and search backup and sync options to make sure your data is safe, yes. Okay? We do a couple of things on our side to make sure that that's safe, like including all data in iCloud device backups. You can manually export to JSON, or if you're using day one sync, your data is also backed up to the cloud, and there's ways to verify that your data is up there. So
and you can also encrypt your backups in day one, which is also great.
Yes.
And fortunately, even in that experience, I didn't lose any of my day one data. So
fist pump.
Hooray.
So there you go.
So my comment is, when is the ebook coming out that I want to buy about how to restore your digital life? And then 2, the most important question of all, have you documented this in day one?
I believe I've documented parts of this in day one for sure. Certainly the part about the theft.
That's it.
And that whole experience, because like that was, you're in a foreign country. You don't really expect this to happen. You don't expect a home invasion to occur.
Right.
Who knows what type of danger I might have theoretically been in. And then I had to figure out how to get in touch with like the police speaking Portuguese, and I don't speak Portuguese. Wow. And then going into the specific like travel police and dealing with that. And not only that, but I'm gone for a month. So I had talks coming up, a TEDx talk specifically that I've been working on this laptop. I'll just like include this other part, because I will say that one of the amazing things in my journey has been the people who have helped me along the way. So I happened to like stow away on this crypto cruise while I was in Lisbon for Web Summit, as one does. You know, there's just crypto money floating around in the ocean. You just like hop on a boat and you're like, yes, I'm here for free drinks. And anyway, so I met a person who was a co-sponsor of this cruise, and his name was Nuno, and he was sort of runs a local design agency or something in Lisbon. And so we were like talking, and he was excited to meet me and like all this stuff. And then, you know, I went on my way, and that was the end of the night. And then the next morning I was broken into. And so he was the only person really in Lisbon who I knew that I could reach out to get help. And it turned out that he was not only willing to sort of like host me in like their co-working space, which is amazing, but then he like loaned me a laptop, which of course had a Portuguese keyboard, but you know, beggars can't be choosers, which I then took to Russia, and I took to Milan so I could give my talks for the rest of my journey.
Wow.
And then I mailed back the laptop from Milan with Fabricio, I think, the guys that make the Boxy suite of apps happened to be in Milan and like meet me and offered to like send that back for me because the post office was closed on Sunday when I was returning back to like the United States. So anyways, it just like had such a great set of people like coming out of the woodwork to help me. That was, you know, a really important, I think, part of that lesson. And that, of course, is stuff that is in my day one.
Cool.
So
cool experience. Wow. Maybe better if it didn't happen at all, but you know, we learned some things for sure.
Life, you know.
Yes, there you go. Life happens.
Yes.
Did you lose any data?
Yeah, you know, I think I might have lost a little bit of work that hadn't been synced like on my talks. You know, but for the most part, no. Fortunately, I am a pretty heavy user of like Dropbox. You know, and most of my stuff is synced somehow in the cloud. So for the most part, you know, I think I got it all back.
Great.
But I mean, again, like for me, as someone who has both worked on digital identity in the past and has been in tech for like 15 years, I can't imagine like how hard this is for normal people who don't have the level of like sophistication, you know, that folks like us do, that know how some of these systems work, to try to recover, you know, your digital life when it's been hacked or taken away. And I've had people that have reached out to me, you know, because their Instagram accounts were hacked or whatever, and like there's just not much that I can do, you know, like personally. So we live on this very thin layer. I mean, within real life, of course, with like the atmosphere, but then like this secondary digital thin layer where like we're so insecure and we don't even know it. And with all the stuff that goes on about, you know, privacy and account hacks and like all this other stuff, it's not real until it's real. And then you're like, oh God, what is my backup plan?
Yes.
So it's been very, you know, I guess humbling to have had this experience, and then to have a lot of compassion for people who, you know, use the same password everywhere, or like have a very sort of facile idea about, you know, how secure they might be when in fact they could be quite vulnerable.
Yeah.
And to something that you don't even expect, whether it's like dropping your phone in the toilet or having it stolen, whatever it is, like there's a lot of risks out there. So
Yeah, like Adam was saying, we deal with cases of data loss often, and it's very unfortunate. And what we've found recently is that a lot of people just assume that everything is always saved. Like I think that's due to social media and all these free type of apps where you're basically always saving your data to a server, and where we're privacy focused and first, there's, you know, half the entries that are created in day one are by free users that are not backed up to our servers because they don't have an account, they don't have an encryption key, and so you know, our hope is that they will make their own backups, do exports, or do device backups, have iCloud backups turned on. And but we're
I wonder
working.
what the percentage of users, you know, are that actually do device backups, right? Like
it's pretty
they
low.
take forever, and it's, you know, it's hard.
Well, there's a 2 gigabyte limit, and everybody goes over it, and you have to pay the $1 a month or whatever for extra storage.
Yeah. Yep.
We're working on some solutions to this so that everybody has an encryption key and has some sort of safety net opportunity, but that's part of our business model is storing data. So it's a hard line to draw. Like we want to protect the data, but we also need to make money. And so yeah,
it's so hard. I mean, trying to explain this stuff to people, you know, like obviously they want security, they want their stuff to be protected, but they want it to be as easy as possible. And if like something breaks or goes wrong, they want to be able to recover. And it's like, I'm sorry, but the nature of security means that you are the prime vector through which someone would have to go through to get access to your data. And if you've lost your key, I'm sorry, we don't have a backup. Like, that's just how it works.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's been interesting, and I often I don't want to scare anybody. Obviously, we see it; it definitely happens. But as long as you're using those methods, we've seen great success in recovering data, even through iCloud device backups. So, if you are using those, please continue, or make manual backups. Like that's part of the free plan as well. So, there are ways to keep your data safe. Or you could do it through iTunes too, and that doesn't count against your iCloud balance, right? Because that's a local
free
storage.
way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
So
Chris.
yeah.
Excellent. How about some speed round questions? Okay, you ready?
Speed round.
Your journals. Do you have a separate journal for travel? Is it all one journal? Tell us about the number of journals and what they are.
I do have a few. I would say that mostly I have what I call my life journal. So travel is not separate. I did create a separate journal just for my Instagram posts because they're quite different. It's very different content, so it's almost like a backup. There's an integration with Spotify that I found. I don't know if that's part of day one, but I have a Spotify journal that adds all the songs that I've ever favorited or liked to entries. And so I can go back and see when I discovered songs. I think that might be either IFT or something like that.
I have the same thing. I love it.
Yeah,
Adds
so that one's
the
cool.
album art to the entry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's great. But so that's separate. So like from a search and just sort of like looking at my content perspective, it's separate. And then I also have a focus journal. And this is, I think, where templates are going to be great because I was doing sort of a manual template thing where every day I'd go in with like my top, 5 goals. And then actually, let me see what I had in there. It was like my top 5 goals, sort of like a daily review. What would make today great? And then sort of a list of gratitude things.
Nice.
And I did sort of modify that template over time, but it was, a really good way of kind of just setting my day up and going through that. So I would say it's sort of like different areas as opposed to being like topical. And
That's awesome.
Obviously, as a fan of hashtags, I use tags a lot more. So I'll have like, hashtag like travel or hashtag, in my case, Messina Odyssey as a way of like thinking about my journey.
I was going to mention
That's a fun, unique way to do it too. Use tags to like name it Adam Vacation 2019 in San Diego or something. That's a long freaking tag, but
That's fine.
But that's a great way to filter those things. That's awesome.
If you have auto suggest for tags, right? What difference does it make?
I love how the father of the hashtag says I'm a fan. I'm just a fan. Since I'm a fan, a casual.
Is there another way to pronounce hashtag, like the creator of the GIF? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
Hashtag. I don't know. Good stuff. And your favorite feature?
My favorite feature. Oh wow. Well, I think I'm getting into the voice annotation or voice recording feature, which is new, which is recent. I use a service called Otter to record voice memos, which then does the automatic transcription. But I find, again, sometimes whether you're driving or just like I'm out for a walk, I want to record like an idea. And usually it's like stream of consciousness. Or for example, I've gone out partying all night and it's like 5 a.m. and I'm like, really, really tired. I don't want to like type, using like normal language. I'd rather just like record myself, like exploring words or whatever it is, and have my journal kind of like just capture it. So the fact that like now you guys do the auto transcription is probably one of my more favorite features that I'm excited to use a lot more now.
The watch doesn't do the transcription yet for audio recordings. You can just talk to and use the Siri, but we will be adding that. I would recommend using the watch for audio recording in those situations.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Great interview, great questions, and you gave so many tips. I usually ask what's your favorite tip, but you've given some were even secret, right? Really top secret. So thanks for sharing those tips. Where can people find more about you, Chris? What you're doing?
Well, you can check out my website at chrismessina.me. I'm also on Twitter at Chris Messina, and I'm on Instagram as Chris.
Love it. Nice.
Great.
Cool. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. Thanks, Paul, for joining us on this episode. We always enjoy your insights. Can
I do a quick shout out?
Yeah, of course.
John Carmichael hit his 7-year with Day One. That was
Congratulations,
awesome on Facebook,
John.
so good stuff.
Okay, I got to be honest with you. I was a little nervous about the gamification with streaks. I am addicted to it. Like I have to have that number go up. I don't know. I don't know if that's for anybody else, but more than like a reminder popping up, I want to see that number continue to grow. And so I'm like, okay, now I got to do it every day instead of like 4 times a week or whatever. So,
and actually, I just like jump on this. Like I think that
Yeah.
this is a good example where designing for manipulation actually can be positive.
Yeah.
Right. Like Snapchat, it's about like checking in every day and forcing you to like do this thing that maybe you don't want to do. Journaling to me feels like this self-development skill
Yes.
or practice where something like a streak is creating that psychological urgency to like contribute, which hopefully is actually helping to make you a better human.
Yeah.
So in this case, I'm definitely supportive of that. It's the cases where this stuff is like used nefariously that is like, more skeptical. I'm more skeptical of.
Yeah,
So
great point.
I appreciate it in this context.
That makes
So
sense.
Love that.
Anyway, so check
That's
out those
great, Chris.
things.
Thanks.
Yeah, and make sure you've updated to 4.1 on the App Stores as it's coming out. I believe it's a phased release. We like to do that. So what that means, if you're not familiar, our app goes out over a period of 7 days to more and more users. And so if you don't see the update immediately, you can force it on iOS if you just search day one and download from the app page, but it'll be there soon. So check that out. We're excited about it.
Yeah.
If you always need,
As always.
you.
If you need, when you need
As
that.
always, yes. There you go. Thanks, Brett. He's my personal Grammarly.
Yes.
If you need assistance, check out the links below for our help guides or quick links to contact support. We're happy to help. So,
Thanks everybody for listening.
yeah, tune in next time.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Chris.